Hey, Gavox here. Today I want to go through the problems I have in Madden right now with the game. And we're going to just do gameplay. We're not going to talk too much about MUT or franchise or any of that stuff. We're going to guys go on the field, what's going on, what needs to be fixed both in this year. And I know some of these issues are so deeply ingrained into Madden that it'll be hard to fix outside of next year. I'm sure they're hard at work at the next gen version since we're getting, I think, PS5 and Xbox Scara or whatever it's called next year. So hopefully for next gen consoles, we can get something like this and some of these issues patched up. Now for this year's game, the number one thing needs to be looked at is disconnects, right? DCs, the desyncs. I know the squads community, I've seen Barbosa's tweet a little bit about it, and some other tweets that they're having a lot of issues over there. So getting stuff to actually play the game, the biggest issue is like we want to actually play it. But getting desyncs and disconnects fixed is hopefully the highest thing on their priority list, and their internet connectivity team, if they have one, whatever it is, hopefully that's what we're working on. But for gameplay, the number one would be stretch, right? The run game. Now, running back abilities make it a whole lot harder. There are some plays where you can have them bagged in the backfield, and they break 2 tackles, spin out another one, and then they run for a big touchdown. You're like, what could I have done better than that if they're just naturally breaking my tackles? So you can have good run D, but they can still run for 80 yards on you, even with the best run D possible. So it's frustrating, to say the least, to play a good game and you lose. And that's kind of the biggest thing that we want in Madden, for user input to matter, because this is in the end a video game that we try to play against other players. Of course, ratings do factor into it a lot in constructing your squad. So there isn't always, it can't just 100% be user only, or else you'd be using 50 overalls and beating 99 overalls, and that's not the kind of game that we want. So what needs to happen to help stop stretch? And I think the number one is forced defense. It's forced defender. So the forced defender on the edge of the line of scrimmage, and we saw this in my last patch video. Basically, I think it was Jared Cook was the tight end, was the example I showed. Khalil Mack was the outside linebacker and his outside shoulder. And when he ran stretch, Khalil Mack didn't do his job that he's assigned to on the end of the line of scrimmage, which is to get up the field, be the forced defender, make them cut back towards the heart of the defense. Khalil Mack got turned by Jared Cook, passed off to the right tackle, and it's easy to get around the edge. So they need to code it so if you're a good player, you can get up the field, you can do your job. You don't even have to be a good player. That's like their number one job on the edge of the line of scrimmage, is getting up the field, is respecting that run, is to make it sure the running back can't get outside of them. And then the rest of the line will kind of like move over because all the momentum of the line's there. Frequently I find the defensive line doesn't have enough momentum and they don't gonna go quick enough. They kind of like get to their pre-canned animation spot, stop, and then it just kind of stops there and then like struggles and wiggles and like maybe the block shit happens, then you get a tackle. But there needs to be a little bit of momentum. There needs to be the forced defender to kind of go with that. And with that flow is linebackers need to be able to recognize a run. Have you ever seen a linebacker in this game react as poorly as they are in real life? Like, high school linebackers can read counters better than these, greatest linebackers of all time in Madden can read a counter. The linebackers in Madden, they flow, like if the counter's going left, the running back takes a full step right. The linebackers literally flow right, instead of following the guards, instead of reading their keys. So linebackers, pursuit, play rec, this all needs to play into the game. This needs to be able to be basically smarter. You don't need to make the blocking worse. You don't gotta make it hackathon like, all right, now we're just gonna increase block shed, right? We're just gonna make the forced defender perfect. It'll just get outside and crash any running back. We need a little bit more like of the players playing like real life NFL players, a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Realism is not perfectly, but more nuance, I guess, and playing and flowing, and make it look more like an NFL game against the run, at least with the linebackers scraping over top and all that, without having to put in 7 Mortal Kombat codes in order to finish the stretch off. But then they still break out. So gap integrity needs to be a little bit better. But when linemen, like different types of schemes, one gap guys, I know they have 2 gap defensive tackles, but in the end it's kind of just like, he doesn't really do anything. The way that these guys play, they don't play off the shoulder. They play head up straight on. So, like, when you're running with a running back, if you're a running back IRL, you're going to try and, like, watch the butts of your offensive linemen and kind of run off them, right? So, like, because there's gap integrity. But in Madden, when you're running with the running back, like, the defensive lineman will oftentimes be, like, straight up on the offensive lineman. And then, like, what will happen, you run, you're like, all right, I'm going to try to run off this. And then it'll shed inside super quick. So, instead of, like, having, like, the ability to skill out and kind of read your blocks, sometimes they shed opposite of the block, because sheds are just pre-canned animations, and you're like, well, I guess I should have ran to the wrong side because that would have got me more yards. So sometimes it is very frustrating. The running game here isn't also very well with gaps and integrity like that. So defensive linemen need to be able to, kind of puncture, penetrate their gaps a little bit more and do their job. So with that, with the pass rush and defensive linemen, I want to get onto that. Sometimes the pass rush I feel is too binary. It's too much you win or you lose, or you get a super win and you insta-shed them. Like, it's too, like, I guess that's trinary. It's too much one way or the other. Like, there's no, like, you don't see a defensive end getting past the left tackle or right tackle and then kind of slipping, trying to get around the edge, and he goes trying to get under, and this quarterback steps up and can escape that way. You don't see too much of that, like, getting around stuff. You don't see enough, and I don't know if players would even like that if their defensive lineman slipped and fell down, because even though it's realistic, maybe they don't like it in Madden, but that's still kind of like a loss. So, like, if the quarterback goes back just a step too far, the defensive lineman will slip into the quarterback, which makes your pocket presence more necessary. So I feel like there isn't enough, like, the defensive lineman did a good job, offensive lineman did a good job. Did the user fuck up? Did he run back into that defensive lineman? Instead, right now, it's kind of like they got around the edge, they got the win. So hopefully they can add a little bit more pass rushing nuance into the game too. I think the O-line pass blocking chems, when they put them all in the game, I think it was kind of a waste of space. I would get rid of all the O-line abilities for passing, at least. Just put secure protected back in. Make that the thing that you got to use to shut down all pass rushing chems and just be done with it. This whole, like, pass block elite all day that do these different things is just confusing. If it weren't for Mutt Leaks, we wouldn't know what any of these things do. They just get rid of them. Put secure protector in and leave that as the pass blocking chem. So, play action. With that said, when I talk about the running game, with linebackers flowing to the ball more, play action is the most effective play in the NFL for passing the ball. And it just sucks in Madden with a lot of the blocking breaking down super easily. Now, I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere Clint said, like, that logic for pass blocking's been the same for like a decade plus in Madden. So that needs to be updated. That 100% needs to be updated for the blocking. You got to make it more viable. I'm not saying play action is absolutely dead, it's over, it doesn't work. But play action, with the linebackers able to flow to it, and especially if they have low play rack, they'll really try to fill the gaps, which allow you to, like, pop it over their head. So there needs to be some sort of, like, you run the ball, the defense calls a running, like, stacks the box and stops the run. Great, right? If I stack 9 in the box, I should be able to stop the run. But if they run a play action off of that, and then they kind of, like, play up for the run, and then you just kind of throw the ball, so throwing against those stacked box should be way more effective. So basically, defensive backs that are pressed along the line of scrimmage, maybe they're off a line and you get a free release. I see that a ton when they base the line press. Sometimes you're not able to beat them over the top, even with Randy Moss. That should not happen. Stacking the box with even your defensive backs, even your free safety, having them all within 10 yards, 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, you should be able to take the top off the defense with the fastest guys, with the Tyreeks, the Mosses. You can even beat Dion if he's misaligned. So I think that needs to be kind of counterplay there to stacking the box. So that way you kind of have to pick your poison one way or the other. If you are going to stack the box, if you're going to send like a heavy blitz, you should be able to take an advantage over the top very easily if that's your defense. Because right now the heavy blitz is the meta. It's annoying. It's very hard to beat it over the top unless the user fucks up or makes a mistake, or you can kind of, like, basically catch him slipping. So play action, running game, passing game, they need to basically be able to affect and take advantage of different sets. Like, if they go with a dime set and you run the ball, you should be able to run it down their throats. But if they go with like a 4-3-3-4, like a bear formation, a goal line, like something, you should be able to stack the box and stop them on the run. But then again, like I said, take advantage of them through other ways. So, with that said, into more minutia, defenders. Still, I think zone coverage is okay right now with when the ball's in the air right off the snap or whatever. But defenders don't react to the ball when it's thrown at their heads. Corner routes are ass. So, like, the zone coverage is not perfect. I'm talking about the reactions, okay? It's pretty good. It's better since they became psychic, and they kind of tuned back the psychicness of defenders, which was nice. There's still some psychicness, especially with zoned out. But that's okay because it's an ability. With that said, if you throw a ball directly at a safety with a wide receiver there, they'll oftentimes freeze in place. Whereas if you would have thrown that ball like 15 yards away from them, they would have made the most miraculous play in the world at it. So I feel like it's frustrating that sometimes the worst reads are more rewarded. Like, they're throwing it right at you. Just step forward and take it from the quarterback. But it definitely feels backwards sometimes. So they need to do that, or the ball's thrown in their head and they miss it. Yeah, so that's still a frustrating thing for me. I think there needs to be an underzone coverage. What I mean by underzone coverage, like cloud flats, those light blues, light purples, yellows, like there needs to be some sort of under coverage, not the deep blues, not the deep zones, that can stop corner routes. That straight up says, crossers, corners, you're dead to me. I think it needs to give up all the flat area, so if you check it underneath, that's great. So that way you can play some sort of Mabel coverage too if there's a lot of floods. So there needs to be something in the game. Because right now, corners, with especially a rollout quarterback, is offense for many top-end players. And it's frustrating that I got to go cover 4, press, base align, shade underneath, and still it won't stop it all the time. You got to make sure you have purple under routes. You basically have to have like these hacks. You shouldn't have to be able to hack together a defense in order to make it play. We should have a tool to shut down the tools that the offense has. I don't want tools being removed. I don't think they should take out the great corners. I think they should give the defense an ability to put a zone out there to stop it, because those same corners are man toasters. All right? Man toasters is also the name of my recent book on serial killers, but more on that later. So even if it's not cloud flats, it needs to be something. It needs to be something to take care of those deep corners and crossers. I need spies to work better. I need spies to not be able to be swerved by QBs on their evasiveness. Guys that are as fast as the quarterback should not be able to be beat because I played a counter play to you, right? If we're going chess, if my queen takes your rook shouldn't win just because he wiggled a little. Like, my spy should be able to keep up with a quarterback. I know there are like the Vicks and Lamars in the world that can, beat defenders, but those are NFL defenders. Those aren't the greatest defenders of all time that I'm running out there on defense. That's not Prime Shaz running a 4-3 or whatever. That is not Palomalo. They're not swearing out the fastest card in the field, Tillman. I got Ward out there getting 95 speed Ward getting swerved out. So that needs to stop. All right, that needs to stop. Spies need to run faster. They need to be able to attack the quarterback quicker, and they need to be able to take it down when they're out there. With that said, contains on non-blitzes really suck. Call a contain, they'll just run inside. Call a straight pass rush, they'll run outside. Contains need to do the job too as an adjustment. It is frustrating to see contains get broke, and it's just a waste sometimes even calling them. But contain blitzes are so powerful, and they've been powerful as hell the last 3 years because offensive line on the blitzes, they don't seem to want to recognize the guys right over top of them. It screws up offensive line blocking, especially with the user hover. That needs to be somehow balanced. I wouldn't mind if you balanced it like you did 2 years ago and make it so CBs can't go on contains. Now, that does nothing to the 3-4 blitzes where you got contains too. And I don't know how you would balance a 3-4 blitz outside of being able to take advantage of it over top, right? Because those 3-4 blitzes with your DBs able to be misaligned just against the line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter because you can't beat them over the top with superstar Randy Moss wide receivers. So that's my suggestion for being able to balance the stupid Sen 7 meta that we're currently in, is allow us to take advantage to punish the people that get too aggressive against us, or else your meta will stay the same forever. I think I'm kind of right now. I'm on the fence about dashing Deadeye. I sort of like it, but I can see it's being abused. I think if you get rid of the ability to just throw corner routes blindly without some crazy user or adjustments, I think it's okay to keep dashing Deadeye in the game. Same thing with Escape Artist. I've seen some suggestions maybe Escape Artist should just be for scramblers and dashing Deadeye just be for improvisers, but I do not want to nerf the passing game right now at all because of where it's at. Even though some of these suggestions are a little bit of a nerf. I also think pocket quarterbacks are affected by pressure too much. Those pressure inaccurates are stupid. Pocket quarterbacks are so bad to use. I think pocket quarterbacks should get 4 to 5 abilities versus scramblers getting 3 abilities just to balance them out. Because currently they're so out of the meta. They're so underpowered compared to scramblers. They need to do something to rebalance pocket passers. So hopefully, I would say, maybe scramblers get pressured more, but Lamar's already got 93 throw under pressure, so you can't really do anything about that this year to make scramblers, feel pressure more. But I think pocket quarterbacks should be able to look in the eyes of the pass rush and deliver a nice West Coast scheme. I think quarterbacks do need to be fast behind the line of scrimmage without Escape Artist. Have you ever played with Michael Vick without Escape Artist? He gets chased down by defensive line easily. It's embarrassing. They need to fix on quarterbacks without an Escape Artist on their actual speed being the actual speed behind the line of scrimmage. Escape Artist has really nice acceleration, but QBs need to work like they do. Secure tackler and unfakeable chems, they need to work 100% of the time. Secure tacklers should be able to take down a X factor. I don't care. Chems that are counters to other chems should just work. You only get 3 secure tacklers at most, and unfakeable should not be beat by spins. I know they're beat oftentimes because the way that the field moves. Like if a guy spins and he moves like 5 yards because of how insane the spin is, unfakeable is not going to keep up with that. There needs to be something to allow unfakeable to still take those guys down, because we paid for those chems to prevent those kind of spins from beating us, and it's only on 3 out of 11 defenders, so I feel like that should happen. Also, when people make a bad decision and they juke or spin into a hit stick, they should fumble at a much higher rate. I think fumbles right now are in a bad space because people can hit you without you making a bad decision, without you juking into them, without you making a bad user spot, and they can get a fumble. And they get a fumble at almost a greater rate than if you juke into them. So if you juke and you spin and you get greedy, and guess what? There's Pat Tillman, Ray Lewis sitting there, and they pop the shit out of you when you're not looking, when you're juking into them, you should put the ball on the ground. Terrible, terrible decision. The ball should be given and forfeited. Don't spin or juke into enforcers or hit sticks. All right? Punish bad decisions by users. I don't think wide receivers hold on the ball well enough in possession catches. There's a lot of suction hits out there still on the field. So, like, oftentimes you have to throw those diving post patterns because that's the only way you can possession catch in the game. So if there's a way, like, frequently, have you seen that animation where you possession catch and your wide receiver's falling back? And then, like, a hit stick is launched? My physics has my guy going like this. A hit stick's coming from this way. The guy gets brought back up, triggered into a hit stick animation. No, when I'm falling back, let me fall back, get my feet in bounds. Do not rise me up like the fucking Undertaker and then put me into a hit stick animation. That's terrible, terrible physics. It frustrates me, and it makes it much harder to pass. I think oftentimes when you throw into double and triple coverage, you aren't picked off enough. Defenders drop too many interceptions. I think good, tight throws with a good possession catch should be rewarded. In the NFL, I like that you added the ability to box out players this year, just like those big tight ends, those Gronks made a career out of it. Box them out, catch it, go down. You should not be able to go through the player and punch a ball out through his chest like this is like some sort of alien coming through a chest. No. Possession catches in tight spots are fine. But in double and triple coverage, bouncing off a defender's hands, 100% should be a fucking pick. Next up. We talked about that. 7-man contain blitzes, and the O-line AI blocking, downfield run blocking. They also miss their blocks too much. O-line AI needs to improve with finding their blocks. Wide receiver screens and drag. And getting upfield after catching a ball, it seems like you're trying to transition a Mack truck to go from one way, beep, 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 and then you take off. By that time, the user can fly over there and tackle you, or the CPU can get to you. Whereas, like, they're stacking the box. You throw a wide receiver screen to stretch them horizontally, but then it takes you 3 seconds to transition outfield, and by that time, you're tackled. It is so frustrating, these wide receiver screens that should be able to dominate and that are very prevalent in the NFL when a team's getting too aggressive, screens and stuff. It just doesn't work in Madden because it takes too long to transition upfield. You need to make transitions. Screens themselves, oftentimes you see the running back run into their offensive lineman too much. Screens would be a great counter for this blitz meta, but currently a lot of them are unusable. So we only really have bubbles right now that are usable, but bubbles are pretty easy to go ahead and snatch with the right adjustments or the right user. So like a wide receiver screen when it's going to the far side of the field, that should be able to take advantage of a stacked box. And that's really another one of the tools where you don't necessarily need to nerf blitzes as much as you need to give tools to the other side of the ball to combat them. So please increase the ability or make it turn upfield quicker. You see that a lot on drags and stuff, their inability to get upfield. But I know drags have been powerful in the past, so that's probably why they nerfed them a little bit. Catch interceptions, camera's still a little wonky, but I think the last time we asked them to fix it, they made it worse, so I'm just not even going to mention it. Wide receivers should get off and explode out of the routes a little bit better, get up the field faster, as in my opinion, they don't do that quick enough. When I send a spy at a quarterback, do not send my flat zone or any other zone near him. When I put a spy on the field and I click that button in, I want him being sent. I don't want my nearest zone being sent to. When I have no spy on the field and I click the spy button, like you guys have said, then it is fine to send my nearest zone because that's what I want. But do not send 2 guys to do a job I clicked only 1 to do that I specifically set 1 to do. Because oftentimes, they'll roll out, your cloud flat will be in a fine place to play the guy. You'll send your spy at him because he's rolling out. But the cloud flat will chase 2 and it leaves an open receiver. Boom, 15 yards. And when you had them locked. When they had no openings, but they got bailed out because of bad mechanics. So make the spy send only the spy when he's on the field. Scramble drill goes along with that. I think too often times when you have a zone player out there, they're more like a pylon and they just react when the ball is thrown. They should be able to get smartly in the scramble drill, like get closer to a wide receiver. And the counterpoint of that is wide receivers are terrible on the scramble drill. They'll either run towards the quarterback, run away, run towards the middle of the field. I think they need to improve the ability for wide receivers to get to green grass, to be smarter on the field, to run away from defenders. Don't run towards defenders, receivers. And the defenders should try and get near receivers. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a combat, and they're both doing their jobs as they should, like they would in real life. And lastly, and I want to hear all what you guys have to say because I'm sure I missed a bunch. I always do like, oh shoot, I should have mentioned that. So put it in the comments below. Also, like the video. That'd be really cool if you did. Wide receivers, or if you liked it, otherwise dislike it if you hate my stuff. Wide receivers or any other player downfield blocking needs to be fixed. So like, you guys ever do a kick return? You guys ever see your guys just kind of like, do whatever. Blunt, do something, the famous words from my stream, because he just got in my way and didn't block anybody. So wide receiver downfield blocking needs to be improved again. We saw similar, like remember a few years ago when blocking was good, we had like improvised screens were meta. Because, you call a couple drags, you get them in front of your running back, you throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, your running back would take it. So, like, remember that? That would be really cool again, to have improvised screens back in the game. Just like they do in real life. So, those are my suggestions. Hopefully, you guys agree with them. If not, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.